Maurice, an integrative nutrition health coach, plant-based chef, and CEO and owner of MoTao Integrative, is a vibrationally curious being, here to learn, grow, and share his experiences. In his words, and I quote, "I have a deep connection to education, health, well-being, macroeconomics, and money. My end goal is to perpetually cultivate the highest possible quality of life for myself, my loved ones, and add value to everyone I come into contact with along the journey, if or when permitted." Hi, Mo. I'm so glad that you said yes to being here today. This is Circle of Healing's 6th episode. We are calling this Camouflage to Cameos. And today, one of your interests, go-tos, is cryptocurrency. And as we were speaking about all the lingo and all the things I didn't understand about cryptocurrency, we decided to come on. I'm sure if there's things that I don't understand, there's also other people that that need it in layman terms. But we are so grateful to have you here with us today. Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure to share what I know. And I'm pretty sure that during our session, I might learn a thing or two myself. So it's great to be here.
Yeah. So I came up with a few questions that I was curious about. And like I said, I know that you're pretty good at breaking things down, and I'm sure you'll be able to help us understand and gain some clarity in the cryptocurrency arena. So why don't you give us a brief definition or overview of what cryptocurrency is?
All right, thanks. That's a really good question to start with. And I'll start with like a larger frame, just to let everyone understand why cryptocurrency, and then we'll get to what it is, because then I think people will understand it better that way. Because there's just so much information out there, and I'm pretty much sure that a lot of people are confused as to what are all these things. And I mean, there are people making money, there are people losing money, there are people being scammed, there's like it's all over the place. There's just good and the bad in it. So I think it was due to in 2008 when we had that huge financial crisis in the US that really triggered a great amount of atrocities across, I would say, the globe, because everyone is so dependent on the US economy to support their own. I would like to simplify, and I'll use some terms. I'll see if I can go back and forth towards like the technical terms for something, and then I'll use like a simplified term just to create a nice little wave of understanding, because you might have viewers who are more understanding of the area, and then there are just those that are just fresh. So you did have a group of cypherpunks, which are like just internet geeks that understand computers a whole lot. But they also understand the economy and what was happening. And they thought about money, that money is so easily manipulated, and a lot of us don't understand what money is. I mean, we interact with it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, even in our sleep, I'm pretty sure that payments will be coming out of your account and you have no idea. So we interact with money on a daily basis, but not all of us understand what it is. And so I think the cypherpunks are the internet geeks then, amongst themselves, started to raise a question like, what if we had like a money that's just, it's built on computers through computer code, that it's written in code, and that way no one can manipulate this money unless you have like a 51% of us agreeing to change or make that manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And these are guys talking to themselves like all over the world through like just these dark web kind of stuff. But at least it was dark web, but for a really, really good purpose or a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in 2008, those conversations started, and Bitcoin, the largest cryptocurrency of all of them now in terms of age and maturity and adoption, was birthed, I think, in January 2009 out of that. So really, what cryptocurrencies are, it's really, to simplify things, it's really just digital money that lives on the internet that
Mm-hmm.
cannot be manipulated unless you have like 51% of the stakeholders or the participant in it agreeing to whatever manipulation that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So in simplified terms, it's really just digital money. So it's the same money that we use, but it's just digitally or natively stored on the internet on a protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be manipulated. So it's very secure.
So I know that like one of my questions was the crypto lingo.
Mhm.
And I know you say in that there's a lot of people that may not understand, certain lingo and all of that about cryptocurrency. And also you touched on Bitcoin. And I wanted to know, like, what was your research, or what have you came into knowledge about Bitcoin and why it was the first cryptocurrency? Is that just a name, or is it a company? Like, how have you researched that and how it became the first thing out here?
Yeah, good question again. As I mentioned before, these computer geeks are cyberpunks. Bits are associated with computers because most things are communicated through bits. And I think because it's not even like a physical coin or anything like that, it lives on the computer, but then the general public, we can relate to a coin being a currency or something that you spend. So that was very wise of them to think about, to name it like Bitcoin. So it's digital money on the computer, so it's in bits. So I think that was kind of cool for them to name it that way. And It was the first because it was just the first one that came out. It really was just an experiment because it was a question that was raised, like, what if we created this thing
Mhm.
and it operates this particular way? I mean, and it can't be manipulated and it's adopted, then it could be a thing. So it was really just an experiment. And
Yeah.
that's the reason why it's first. And then there's just many different iteration of that, why there are many others, because then there are people trying to, oh, but we could also do this and this and this with it. So it's a really genius of an invention, I think. And yeah, it creates like a sea of opportunity for us to just build cool other things on the technology. Maybe we'll talk about as we go along.
So is Bitcoin just a name of the digital currency, or is it a name of a company of the digital currency?
All right, great question again. Bitcoin, it's really a protocol. So it's a protocol on which we operate, but then it's a protocol in which you exchange value. And this value is in the form of a currency, which is called Bitcoin.
Okay.
So natively, all Bitcoin lives on the Bitcoin blockchain, which, as I say, I will get to blockchains in a minute. I'm not sure if that's a part of your question, but
It is.
All right, good. So Bitcoin just lives on this protocol. Say, to simplify stuff, say YouTube. It's the protocol, right? And you sign into YouTube, and you have like YouTube dollars. It natively lives on YouTube. It doesn't go anywhere else, right?
Okay.
And I sign on YouTube because then I have an account on YouTube, and you want to send me some YouTube dollars. So you just get my account number or my address, which that's a term that will speak in terms of cryptocurrency. You have a receiving address. And then you can send me YouTube dollars over.
Okay.
And it goes nowhere else, and no one can stop it. No one interrupts it. There's a really small fee that you pay to keep YouTube going, which is the network.
Gotcha.
The protocol. And really that's how it's done. And after a while, people will recognize that, I can use these YouTube dollars to do a lot of different things depending on the different person that open a YouTube account. So the larger that network grows, the more value this thing has in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because
So it's not just a company, because Bitcoin isn't a company. It's a protocol. So it's computer code that was just written, and like everyone owns that protocol. So that would be like YouTube, but YouTube isn't owned by Facebook or the Alphabet Group. It's owned by me and you, because we now buy into these YouTube coins, which makes it valuable. Because if we're not transacting on the network, it doesn't have any value.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. I am such a cryptocurrency virgin. I don't really know too much about it, but I hear.
You want me to further simplify anything you can, but I hope that YouTube explanation kind of, because everyone knows YouTube in a sense. So
yeah. I mean, that it makes sense to me. So, all right. So are there companies? I guess I'm trying to find the trails of the exchanges that can occur. So would you have to hmm, I'm trying to get the words correctly.
Take your time.
So when you buy into something like a Bitcoin, would it only be beneficial to everyone who's in Bitcoin and not other people who are in other sectors of the cryptocurrency? Because I know cryptocurrency is basically just a general explanation of the digital currency, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Bitcoin is basically cryptocurrency is like the umbrella, and Bitcoin is a stem off of that umbrella. So there's other Bitcoin type basically stems off of cryptocurrency. But if I buy Bitcoin, would I be able to exchange and invest in whatever it is with another root off of the cryptocurrency? If that makes sense.
Yes. That's
Break it down for me. I don't know.
That's a good question, and I understand that the framing that you were trying to give, that using the branch and stems, that's a good way to look at it. So Bitcoin is this, it would be like a siloed protocol. So whatever exchange happens on Bitcoin, it really just benefits the network and the network participants of just Bitcoin. That's how it started. But then, and cryptocurrencies just make reference to the currency definition of what Bitcoin is. But then, because of the technology, I would really hope we jump to your question of the blockchain, because then that kind of sets the foundation for all of this thing, because it's the technology that Bitcoin was built on. So these cypherpunks are the internet geeks, as I mentioned before. When that idea came up of Bitcoin, but then you needed to build this thing in such a way where it can't be manipulated. How are we going to achieve this? And they use cryptography, which is where the word cryptocurrency came from. This is using data in an encrypted way where it's protected, and that no one can manipulate it. I mean, cryptography has been used mainly like for military or for like huge, like the banking world and space exploration and stuff. It's really just to encrypt data in a way where it's protected, sovereign states. So it's bringing that type of technology to what would deem a sovereign money that it's just native to the internet and native to this protocol. So the blockchain is, you can look at blockchain in a way where it's like a classroom, and we're all just marking each other's books to make sure that the teacher is there to say that this happened, and the answer for question number 1 is red, and we indeed exchange books, and we're not be able to see each other because that's what it is. It's the internet, So we just know that the answer is red, and anyone that doesn't have red you won't get a check mark, right?
Okay.
And so that's how the blockchain operates. And it brought that value of security to the network. And that's where Bitcoin, because it didn't have any value when it started. It's just saying, if we create this thing and enough people start to use it and trade it, the fact that it can't be manipulated, it will gain value over time, because it was the actions of our existing government that really caused us to move here. Like, why did the market crash and all of that stuff? And suddenly we lose value in our houses and lose value on our money. But if we get something that can't be manipulated, and all of that pretty much happened because of how the currencies behave, like in the stock market, the different trading desks, etc., and how money is run through the entire system. And if you put more money in the system, it's like basic economics that the Bitcoin protocol runs on. It's supply and demand, because there's a very limited amount of Bitcoin. And in order for you to change that supply, then you'll need to have, as I said before, the 51% of everyone that we're not seeing each other. It's just a bunch of people over the internet, you know. So it's for that reason why it has its value. It's siloed based on the protocol by itself. But then the question that you ask if it benefits others is, now they're like exchanges. They're like real life businesses that are set up now that says you can exchange your Bitcoin for something else. You know, so the blockchain in itself, now, as I said, that there are many iterations that were created from Bitcoin. So there are people doing music on the blockchain, and because Bitcoin was just meant to be money, right? But then there are what you call like smart contracts. They're real like contracts, but it's Bitcoin is like Bitcoin as in bit money. So the smart contracts now would, in a layman's term, would be like bit contracts. So every contract that we have in the real world today can be placed on the blockchain in a digital way, where the same technology that governs Bitcoin, and sometimes even way more fascinating, can be applied there. So I can have a contract with you, and it's just me and you, and there's like no third party in it but the protocol that says that if I do these 3 things, then I would get that plant behind you. And the only way for me to do it is the blockchain.
You can't have my plant. Sorry.
Right. I tried. Right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Structured the contracts in such a way where I would have to prove that I did these 3 things in order to get the plan, right?
Yeah.
The protocol is what looks on in such a way, the code is written in such a way where the protocol can prove that I did these 3 things, and it's only at that point that I get the plan.
Okay.
You can be sleeping, you could be awake, it's just that happens autonomously. You know, so just to answer the question, to bring all of that back home, Bitcoin is pretty much siloed on their protocol or their platform, but there are ways to exchange Bitcoin for something else. But yeah, but once value is there, there's a value exchange that can be had in the cryptocurrency space. I think that's what drives a lot more people to it. It's just the fact that you can exchange value and you can make some money, but it's really the technology that's at the bedrock of all of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I swear, as you're speaking, I'm coming up with more stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
It is a rabbit hole in itself.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I told you, every time I go to even listen to someone speak about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, it kind of gets me to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just too much. there's a lot of stuff that is said, and it continuously makes me ask questions like, wait a minute, so if cryptocurrency is the value, is the actual currency, Bitcoin and all that stuff, is it taking, I don't want to say taking, but is the purpose of it to utilize currency less, so to utilize the paper coin money, the physical aspect of money less, like I know that it's a digital currency, but are we trying to use that more so that we're using less of the physical currency? Or is it that there's too much governmental stigmas or control, or whatever you want to call it, on physical money, that we're looking for another avenue to exchange?
Great. Another great question. I like your question, because
those aren't even the questions that I intended to ask.
That's all right. That's all right. Because as you said, that you're a cryptocurrency virgin to all of this stuff. And that's where you get really curious. And that's where the magic happens. So if I should ask some basic questions, like, do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you trust the government? Like, for most people, it's gonna be under 7, I believe. That's where this thing starts. Like, most people, it's gonna be from 7 downwards. I mean, even if people in government themselves, if asked this question, will be very hesitant to answer to a rating that's over 7. Another question would be if the cost of goods over the last 10 years in your life, has it gotten better or worse? Like, your ability to afford, like, your basic living items, like just food, shelter, gas to move around, and healthcare. I'm pretty sure that the answer would be it's getting more expensive than less expensive. And my third question now would be, like, what is the rate that your salary or your earning is being increased by to somewhat calibrate with that increase? And it's moving in the other direction. It's not really moving, because it's not like we're getting less paid, but it's that your pay raises, or your income rises at a very slower pace than which these things move. And so it seems like almost the basic stuff, or the American dream, as some would call it, it keeps moving further and further away from this generation, and I can just imagine the ones that will be coming after us. So this is where Bitcoin gets interesting, because the basic supply and demand applies here, that the more limited a supply of anything is, it's the more valuable it gets if the demand increases for it, right? That's the reason why house prices go up, because everyone wants a house, but then there are not houses there. All of a sudden, if you just have like crazy houses start to build everywhere, then the cost wouldn't be so much of an issue. But because it takes a while to build them, and that's the same principle that Bitcoin applies to what we have now. The reason why Bitcoin was created is that it's a way of protecting what you have. So it could be in a way that it incentivizes persons to hold it or to get it. So it's not necessarily saying that we should change from the regular dollar and move over to Bitcoin to spend the Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
It's really saying that the government is able to print and manipulate this to make more of it. And the more of something you have is the less valuable it becomes. And during the 2020 pandemic to today, that we've printed pretty much like 50% of the entire money supply within that short space of time.
Mm-hmm.
So one can, how valuable is this then?
Yeah.
So if you had $1,000 in your bank account, say 2019, and then when the pandemic hit, all of that money printing happened, you still have $1,000 in your bank account.
Mm-hmm.
But then the cost of goods has risen so much. So the purchasing power of this has become way less. Though you still have $1,000, but you can buy less with this, right? The fact that with Bitcoin, with holding Bitcoin, if you had used half this amount to say $500 to buy Bitcoin or invest in Bitcoin, which is a limited resource, you would say, or a hard cap asset. The fact that this money is losing its value and this one is getting scared because there's no way for you to change it, then the Bitcoin increases in value over time. And as I mentioned, there are marketplaces out there where you can trade your Bitcoin to say, so a loaf of bread was, say, $3, 2019. And because everything keeps going up, a loaf of bread is now, say, $7. It would cost you more of these to buy a loaf of bread, $7, but then it would cost you less Bitcoin to buy that loaf of bread because the Bitcoin is more valuable.
Gotcha.
It's a scarcer asset. So it's not like to leave the dollar, because every country that you're going to need dollars to spend.
Yeah.
People have houses, which is of value, but people don't just sell their houses to spend. There are ways in which there are markets that are set up where you could get an equity line of credit. So you could get a loan against your house to get dollars to spend. Yeah. So Bitcoin is deemed property. So that's what we need to look at it, because it's very scarce very scarce, and there's a high demand for it. The more the network grows and people realize what it is, then more people keep on coming onto it, and it gets more valuable, and it gets more valuable as time goes by. And you can always, as you would with a property, you can get a loan against it, or you can liquidate, you can sell it later on for a higher price. It's a really cool asset that no one is able to manipulate unless you're going to get 51% of everyone to agree with you. So it's a currency that it started off as a currency, but it grew into this thing where we can look at it as an asset. It was meant to be a currency where we can spend it and it can't be manipulated. But I believe the basic economic rule of supply and demand is what allowed it to grow into what it is today. which is really just like a pristine collateral out there that you can just have and use as collateral to get whatever it is that you want. And the more people join the network, the more value it will get. And so holding dollars, I think, and this is for any currency in the world, because it's the same thing happening right across the world. The more we have to print to keep the regular economy and the way things set up, it's the less valuable these things become. But once you hold Bitcoin, I think regular items will just get more expensive each day, holding your native dollar or your currency. But holding an asset like Bitcoin or a property like Bitcoin, things get cheaper every year because that value keeps increasing. So you require less in terms of dollar term of that asset to buy the things that you want. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but I hope it helped.
Oh no, I love it. I love it. Thank you for explaining that, because one of the main reasons why we even have you here today is because you have a good way of bringing it to layman terms so that we can grasp it a lot easier. Yeah, so you answered a lot of my questions without me even asking them. But let's go to...
It's the last. It's just maybe now I can just bring it home with like a really compact definition versus like explaining all of that, because I think the explanation helps, because just framing everything that as it relates to blockchain and cryptocurrency, it works because so much people just hear about it and they jump in, and you want to put like $100 in this thing to get like $1 million because there's just so much of those stories. But you want to get like the basic foundation of why these things are here. And then because it's really not meant to be like an investment like that. Like that wasn't the reason why it was created. It was just a lifeboat to opt out of a system that seems to be heavily manipulated. And it's cool that there are different iterations of it, but not all of them are like that. Not all of them will last. It's like the invention of the internet. Like there's so many different things that were created and then they're gone. So you want to make a very educated decision if you're going to be a part of this technology, that is much needed. Yeah.
So lingo, I had 3-4 things that I was hoping that you could give just a little, explanation of. I know you have a little bit already, but so okay. So what is crypto? Just not even cryptocurrency, but what is crypto? And I think you kind of explained on it before. I know it is the digital currency, but is that like the definition of crypto?
Yeah. All right, good question to clarify for that lingo. In terms of in lingo terms, crypto today just represents cryptocurrency. That's just like a short way of saying I'm getting into crypto. It represents like the investment side of the whole industry. I think that's what, when someone just say crypto, that's what they're making reference to. On a more technical term, if you're saying crypto, it's really referring to the cryptographic feature of wrapping information or value and sending it over the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what are, and I think that they're interchangeable, but what are tokens and blockchains? I know you spoke more, on the blockchains, but are tokens and blockchains, are they interchangeable, or are they two different things?
Yeah, they are interchangeable. The blockchain would be the protocol which it runs on, or I'll take it out of internet terms and bring it into real life to simplify it. So the blockchain would be the company, and the tokens would be the stocks.
Gotcha. Okay.
Really, really simplify. So the tokens would be like the money or the economic value that goes around, and the blockchain would just be the company in which that value moves around in.
Okay. Okay. And the other one is, and I've heard it so many times when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, is ICOs.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? And I guess, what does it do? I don't even know if that's the correct term to ask, but like, what is it and what does it provide?
All right, so ICO is a term. It stands for initial coin offering.
Okay.
And so the regular man in the regular investing world, because then you have to be in the investing world to even understand how that relates, because it's an ICO because it's an initial coin offering, and because in crypto you refer to the coins or the token as the money,
Okay.
or the stock in the company, as I just explained. So in a regular company, when you're going public, so you have your company that you have, and if you're going to bring it to the stock market, then you would have an IPO, which is an initial public offering. So you're bringing your company to the public, where you're seeking to raise capital from investors. And that's really what an ICO is. So you present your business, hey, this is what I have, this is what I intend to build, this is the problem that it intends to solve, and over this period of time, we were estimated that will bring this value to market. And I would say, that sounds good. I want to invest in it. Here is my money. And then you get tokens as like a stock certificate as your proof that you invested in it, that later on, if that company or that blockchain now does really well, you can either bring back those tokens, and then you'll gain the value of whatever each of those tokens represents at a later date. So it's really like raising capital as a publicly traded company would, but this is just on the blockchain in a private version.
Okay.
Or it's like, this offers an opportunity for the regular person. It has to be done very carefully though, because most of these blockchain, you don't know who you're talking with. As I said, they're computed cypherpunk kind of style, where not all of them reveal the real person behind a project.
Gotcha.
So you want to be very, very, very careful with a product like an ICO. But what it does, it provides an opportunity for the regular person, if you really have like $1 to get into a company. While today, publicly traded companies, prior to their entry to the public market, if I wanted to enter with $1, I can't, because because of US regulations state that you have to be like an accredited investor, and an accredited investor has to be like someone who has like $1 million in your portfolio and you're earning like $250,000 a year. So if something should go bust with the company, then you have cushion. So it's a form of consumer protection that is there. It has this weird balance where it's good and bad, because it's saying that if I put my $1 and this is all I have and the company goes bust, then I don't have anything and I might have to rely on the state or the government for assistance. So it's a way of protecting themselves and a regular individual. But then at the same time, it prevents like a regular person, like what if this is disposable income for me and I can't afford to lose it? I'm still not offered that opportunity to invest either. You know, so these ICO, you know, there's like a really low barrier to entry where you can come in with $1 and invest, and chances are there it's an asymmetric bet where the product doesn't work or the blockchain doesn't go anywhere and you lose your entire money, or the team runs off with it, or it does really well and your $1 becomes like significantly higher later on. So what I believe, and this is just my humble opinion, what I think US regulators need to do, because they're very essential in that, where we still need protection from them, but it needs to be calculated. I think maybe there's more education is needed for the regular investor to say, hey, maybe we're opening up this thing and we're accredited investing. It's more like an education-based system than a law-based system where you can't get in, only these guys. I think they should say like, well, if a company is going to offer an IPO or an ICO in this case in terms of crypto, you need to provide all the pros and cons to us, the regulators. We will present this to the general public and educate them that based on these things, on a risk barometer of like 10 to 1, this company is 9. So you want to be very careful. Only put like a penny in it, right? Or this barometer is really low. They said they're pretty good. The code is reviewed, it's audited, it looks good. Still do your own research, but based on the expectation or the level of safety, you can, like we feel, but then you can. So that's where I believe the regulators can do us, can offer great value to us as being that scale that balances out everything from the companies presenting an ICO, which is an initial coin offering, where we can invest, because it still presents an opportunity for you to do well. At the same time, it could be that there's nothing there and you could lose all your money. So long-winded, that's what, but short, the short answer is ICO's initial coin offering. It's a way of investing in a blockchain or a project or a token as an early investor would in Google or YouTube or any one of those. But at this stage, it's very risky and much education need to be done before one invests.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, in my head's going to only like what I'm familiar with and trying to, you know what I mean? And so I'm just comparing things in my head on
yeah, and that's why I keep doing those comparisons between ICO, IPO, you know, tokens, shares, like blockchain, stocks. So it's a people, you know, you can make a connection between what's in this current reality versus what's in the digital economy.
Okay.
Yeah. Really good questions, though.
Thank you. Let's see. You So I was going to ask you, what do you believe are three to four important factors? But I think you touched on definitely research. I advise that on anything and everything that you ever do when it comes to just about everything. But definitely money and investing. What other steps would you advise individuals to look into? Are there any? Where have you found value in your research on cryptocurrency? I know that you have researched so many different avenues. You're like me, go down the rabbit hole. But are there any specific places that you feel as though are great places to do that initial investing or even research?
Yes, good question. What I would say is to really start at first principles, and I think life gets better that way. And as you mentioned before, it relates to anything that you'd want to invest in, and we tend to point the word investment to money, and it's not. Like, you can invest in your health, your education. You can invest your time into spending with another person. You can invest your time in watching TV, and then where and what you watch depends in terms of your level of interest and how much you will invest. So your time and energy is very important, and I believe that you should always be very careful with and very intentional as to where you put that life force energy. And if you feel stuck, you want to look at maybe resources. Do I have the resources at my disposal? Do I have the time at my disposal? And lastly, I would say, do you have the confidence at your disposal? And if you start at those three, using resources as the root, and move up that tree to say that the root is your resources, your patience. Because then once you have resources, now it's going to be like, what do you do with that resource? And like in today, we have like a sea of resources, like right here in the palm of our hands. You can access the world's everything from facts to fake news. So you have it all there. So when you have that amount of resources now, before, not like a few hundred years ago, like information that we have now, just it's privy to just a few elites, like kings, and like, so now we have all of that. So now comes patience, which is like the bark of the tree. Like, do you now have the patience to say, and I would even plug back a little lower than before patience. Now you have the resource. You need to have a vision. Because then if you have a vision, it's now, all right, I now have these resources. Where do I want this to take me? Versus listening to everybody else. And I think that applies here and to your question. So having that vast sea of resources, having the vision, you need to apply patience. And this is just first principles reasoning that I'll give before I get to your answer.
Yep, down to the basics.
All right. Once you have that vision in place now, with vision and resources at your disposal, and your patience, then now you need to develop a level of confidence to say, all right, now I'm going to step in these direction, because you know, you've done your own research and you know. On a personal basis now, like, what do you want? What do you invest in? Because cryptocurrency, I believe that there's probably over 17,000 of them now, because it's code. So if you can code, most of these things are open source, so you can go on and you can create a version of whatever it is that you're interested in. And if you get people to believe and see the value in that, then just like with this ICO, people will come. If you present your plan, people will say, I want to invest in that because I see the potential there and the impact that it will have.
Yeah.
And there are many projects out there like that. And so you want to use that sea of information, your vision, your patience, and your confidence now to say, okay, I'm in law, you know, or I'm in the legal field. What project is it that's in the cryptos? Because you do have all of them. Like whatever is in this world, it's in the digital. They're creating like a copy of that in the digital world, because now it's immutable, like the blockchain, where you can't just go and change stuff.
Yeah.
You know, or it should be that way. And that's where your research, you should look into it to see, is it built in a way where you only need 51% of people? And what does that 51% look like? Because if there's only 10 people, then you only need like 5.5 people to, so you want like a bigger community. The bigger, this is why Bitcoin, the bigger the community gets, it's the harder for it to be hacked or changed, because this thing gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you want to look in like the area of your interest. So if you listen to music a lot, you're like, what's happening with music on the blockchain or in the crypto world? So you move in the direction of something that you know and that you love. And that way you investing your money, your hard-earned money into that thing should pay off if you do the research, like using all of those first principles points, and then going back to the fundamentals of which we spoke about. Is this thing over time? Do I personally believe on what was presented? What is happening with my dollar? If I put my dollar in this thing, is it provable that over a period of time, my dollar will at least retain its value or increase in value? And that's, I believe, that how one should consider investing in the space or putting your hard-earned money in the space.
Woo. Good. I think that those are so valuable, such valuable insight. It all comes down to energy, everyone.
You're gonna hear a lot, because if I invest in this Sharpie and I go on YouTube, I'm gonna tell you to invest in the Sharpie, because the more people come onto that network, it's gonna go up.
Yeah.
But then what if I wait until 10 people or 20 people or 1 million people goes in, then I just take my money because it didn't mean much to me anyway. I just wanted to make some money from it. Yeah. Then you leave all of those people, it all becomes like a pyramid at that point. But then if it is solving a real problem in the world, like the one that Bitcoin solves, like governments keep manipulating money and they print, and it's, so let's create this really scarce resource, put it on this blockchain where it's immutable, where no one can change anything without 51% of us agreeing to it. This is where we're gonna put our value. This is where I'm going to save, because your saving shouldn't really be getting depleted over time. You know, like this past month, I think January's number was in for the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index that measures inflation month on to month, was like at 7%, 7.5%. Now, if you have your dollar that you're saying $1,000, I always get this little prop. Please don't come to my house. It's not. It's on Amazon for $8 for props. So I use it to educate like my client whenever we do talks and family.
Yeah.
So if you had this 10 grand in your bank account, CPI numbers came out and it was 7.5% inflation. So I just lost 7.5% value of this just by it's just there, not doing anything.
Yeah.
And even if it was invested in a savings account, you're getting like 0.01% interest on your money.
Yeah.
So the real return in you're still in the negative, even if you are getting 5% interest on this, which is not the case. The fact that CPI was at 7.5, you're still at a -2.
Yeah.
Really. So you're still losing purchasing power, because if you go to spend this $1,000 in the real world, this 10 grand, you won't be able to get $10,000 value of it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really for a thing that we really need to look into when you invest, to really look into if is this something that is being used and will gain value over time. Yeah.
Great.
It's funny, you can purchase like $10,000 for $8 on Amazon. That's cool.
I need one of those.
Yeah. It's good energy to have around.
Yeah, put that on my list. Put that on my list. My cousin a few years ago told me about this app, and this app allows you to basically like buy a town, buy a home, so you start off with a certain amount. Basically, it's living, but in the app. So you learn how to manage your money and just invest in all that stuff, which I thought was so cool. It's so cool. I have to figure out the name of it.
Sounds like the metaverse is like way down the rabbit hole of this crypto thing. I could start down there.
I think that it's so beneficial to have, especially when it comes to like our kids,
right.
Teaching them how to invest, teaching them how to get money and give money, the give and receive.
How to recognize value, and how and when do you exchange value? You know, how do you find value in something, and how does that, if you exchange this piece of value that you have for this piece of value over here, how will this value that you exchange it for add more value to you or your family or your community? You know, and that's what I don't think is being taught in.
No, it's not. It's so not.
And it's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. But I believe, I think I was just talking to my cousin about this, that I believe our ancestors had so much more consciousness when it came to the value of things. And then as generations, you know, more generations and the kids are focused on valuable things, just completely, you know, I mean, how many kids now young children have debit cards and credit cards, you know, as soon as they turn 18, they're just like, oh, it's the time. I'm 18, so I can get tons of credit cards and all this stuff. And it's just like, before you know it, you're in debt and you're wondering why I'm in debt. You're in debt because you didn't learn, you know, and take the time to learn about the value of things. And of course, there's so many other levels to that. But yeah, the value of things. And you and I have had so many conversations about trying to teach our children the basic, the foundational value of life and build on that with all the other stuff in this world. But yeah. Ooh. So I'm gonna have to absorb all this all this information that you've given me, you've given us, because I know so many people are gonna gain value from this.
Yeah, that's
conversation today.
That's
yeah, definitely. Okay, so I always ask our guest specialists 3 questions just to wrap things up. And I feel as though these 3 questions are important just to help people to evolve and be more conscientious of themselves and in the world. So what do you desire to see more of in the next 3 years when it comes to people's awakening process? Yeah, and healing.
That's a really good question. I like that question. I do believe that that's already happening, and I think that the opportunity of contrast is allowing us to grow at an exponential rate. The fact that there are things that are unfolding that's uncomfortable or we don't want, it gives us an opportunity to pivot in the direction of the things that we do want. And so I believe that in that sense, it's almost like we're being awakened, not necessarily like conscious choices. That's like one way it can happen, or in some cases can be the experience or an introduction to some kind of tragedy or contrast that will put us in that direction. Because I do believe that the world is unfolding exactly how it should, and us as a species where we can either be active participant in it, but then it doesn't matter. It's not like you can go outside of the world. So either you're going to be in it and be a conscious, active participant of it, or you're just going to have to deal with whatever life gives to you. So I do believe on a bigger scale that's already happening. In the next 3 years, I would say there's just so much things that are happening. Just the fact that there are layers that are being built, because it's just like before electricity, like we couldn't be thinking the way that we're thinking now, right? So there's electricity, and that was like a huge invention. And we get to layer a whole bunch of different things on top of that. There was the internet, and we got to layer a whole bunch of things on top of that. As it relates to just regular growth of an individual, we now have like blockchain and crypto, which just to tie everything back in. And if we don't have anything and it's just a bare human being that you're looking at, I can bet any amount of money that you're gonna have creativity, because that's where everything is birthed from. Like, so some form of creative endeavor is going to be ensued, and the fact that you have a technology on which you can layer that, and we're now connected globally. So if explored properly, it's almost like the opportunities are endless in terms of what we can do, because there's this global community that's just buzzing with ideas. And so, as I mentioned before with that tree, like if you really should just look into the resources that's there, and that includes like having access to a computer or a phone, which most people do. That's almost like a basic human right these days. Right? When you have that powerful piece of machine, like you now have resources, and you have access to this global network of people that you can easily connect with. And there are layers on top of that, which is the Facebook, the YouTube, the Googles, the Twitter, like all of these different, the Discords. There are so many different places where you can plug and learn and grow from there. And then now you can add value to your life, and in turn share that value with the world, because that's how we grow as a species. You know, it's not, what are you going to do, keep it in? What are you going to do with all of that value? The more you share it with people, and then there's someone out there, there's always someone out there that's willing to recognize value and competence. And if there's one thing that I've learned over my human experience, is that competence always gets compensated, always. Always. So you just plug into the resources that you have, get really keen on your vision, be patient enough to know that you have an entire lifetime to do this thing. An entire lifetime to do it. Like, that's what we kind of get ahead of ourselves sometime, and overestimate what we can do in a short period of time, and underestimated what can be done in a longer period of time. So have a vision clear, tap into your resources, apply some patience, and then just build a momentum up with your confidence, and just go for it.
I mean, I was just saying, I don't even remember who I was saying it to, but I was just telling someone, I don't mind failing. I failed so many times, you know, in my life experience, you know, and I've also been extremely successful in my life experience, but I wouldn't know the success without the failures, and I wouldn't know the failures without the successes. Now you gotta have both. So I'm like, I welcome it. It doesn't scare me to step out and try something, you know, new. The only thing that I have learned, and we've said it a few times here, is to be sure to do the research, you know, and take things slower, instead of being impulsive and jumping out there and just doing stuff. I mean, there are some things that you can be like, oh, you know, and take a risk, but you have to weigh things out.
Once that's you take these risks, you know, once you calculated on that. Can you imagine if it was the way we operate in these days, if that was the basic principle that our airline manufacturers took? We're so confident these days when you jump on an airplane, you don't even think about it. You book your ticket and you get to the airport and you jump on a plane and we go, and it says that within an hour and 45 minutes. Why is it taking? You don't even realize that you're actually riding on a piece of metal in the sky.
Most people that do think that don't ride on
Exactly. You're on a piece of metal in the sky that has like these things has engine with fire in it, and it has like a whole big tank of fuel. Like those, like the people who made that had to slow down and think through this process to make sure that this is cool, this, where is the heat stays over there, that can happen with that. There's a lot of thought that had to go in stuff like that. And so we have our entire lifetime to work on. Life is going to be the longest thing that we ever get to enjoy. It's often said that life is short. That can be true as it relates to some things. It depends on how you want to pace yourself. Again, it goes back to that tree where your vision, your resources, and you realize patience is right in there.
Yeah. I know you are the one that started a few years back telling me, be easy on yourself.
Yeah.
And I took that into stride and was like, okay. And I would hear it in my head, be easy on yourself. I'm like, okay, you could do this, you know, just let it go, you know, push to the side, come back to it later. If that's what you're, so yeah, I definitely advise people of that now. Just be easy on yourself. So don't take things so seriously. Don't, you know, but yeah, love it.
Good stuff. I think you're providing your viewers or your fans with great value always. So you keep doing the good work.
Listen, I do what I'm guided to do. And I enjoy it. I love, you know, I love just communicate, and I love learning.
Mm-hmm.
I love teaching. I just love the whole experience. So, yeah. Okay. What and or who is a daily inspiration to you?
In terms of what would be like my vision that I think you read at the beginning of this thing is really just to learn as much as I can, to grow to my fullest potential as a human being, and to share as much as I can with as much people as I can, but with those people that allow me to share. And so that's the what. In terms of the who, it's limitless because we're all connected. So whatever it is that I can learn I'll literally just watch babies play and laugh, and that provides me like with joy and just the simplicity of life. When
Yeah.
I like anchors, and I'll watch videos or speeches or listen to audiobooks or read books, and there's just so much thing that's there in terms of like what it could be. A book could be your what,
Yeah.
so there's a lot that's around me. I'm just a participant, a conscious participator in life, and so there's no right and wrong. It's really just what station you tune your radio to.
Yeah.
So that vision that's outlined that you mentioned before. So my vision would be like my why, or the what that motivates me or keep me going. And then the strategies are endless. It doesn't matter who each person that I interact with on a daily basis more than likely will add some value to my life in some way.
You have to be open to
Yeah.
seeing it, hearing it, appreciating it.
Yeah. And if you don't want to listen to that station, you just change the frequency. That's
I love it. Yes. Okay. And my last comment, question, I guess, is what 3 action steps would you recommend people take today after watching this video?
I would say just be gentle with yourself, as you mentioned, and don't think that you're missing anything. You're not missing out. If you thought you knew and you didn't do anything, you're not late. You're right where you're supposed to be. So apply some patience. I would say listen to it again if it seems like it was too much to absorb, because it really is this blockchain and crypto thing. It's like creating the internet all over again, because more than likely you'll hear the terms being thrown around like Web 3.0, and it really is. It's putting another layer on top of the internet. Like, there are cool stuff that we could have done, but no, there are cooler things that we can do that's being layered on top of that. And we get an opportunity now to own these things or to invest in these things, because when Google and those things were being created, those companies, and even the internet itself, the protocol that the internet runs on, like there's Linux and there's Microsoft, and that the regular person did get an opportunity to participate or invest in these things, but we're all using it. I mean, iOS is just Apple and just that one company, and if you want to participate, you have to buy the Apple stock. But these things are so new.
Yeah.
They're so new. People are still trying to get the lingo, as you said, the language. So we're so early. You're not late. My advice would to get that tree structured in a way where you look at things from a first principles standpoint, where you need resources, and I think we all do. If you have access, if you're watching this, that simply means that you have access to some resources.
Yeah.
Right? Really slow down, be gentle on yourself, have the resources at your disposal. Just spend a day, a month, a week, a year, because you have your entire lifetime to do it, to get a vision structured for yourself and your family.
Yeah.
Apply a whole lot of patience to that vision. Just look at it in a way where you have your entire life to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
Right? And then right in there now, you just tap into the resources and then invest your time, your energy, your treasure, which is your money, put it in those things that you've just created for the vision, and it won't feel so much of a burden. The expectations will be less. You won't be listening to stuff there. If you invest in something and it falls, then you know that based on my research that I've done, this should do that in over a period of time, because that's how you have to treat investment. And if the thing is not doing what you're expected to do within a certain time frame, like, don't invest in a thing that you expect to give you a return in 2 years, and then after 2 weeks someone said something and you change your theses on what you had laid out.
Yeah.
Right? Give it time to work, because really quality things take time to work. We didn't get up and make an airplane overnight. We don't do that. Like trains, all these things that we trust so much, it takes time for them to be built and to be presented to us. And until you have like a very valid reason, or there's some proof there to say that my plan or my thesis has been invalidated, then at that point you change.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I would say. Just really be gentle with yourself, tap into the resources, have your vision set very clear, exercise some patience, and just build the momentum on your confidence.
I love it. And I would add, slow down and have some fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, slow down and have some fun. When we're so focused on the end goal, the end vision, when you have a vision, your vision should never have an ending.
No, it's a road, it's a map.
Yeah, it should never have an ending. And your goals should always have an open door.
Yeah. How boring that would be, though, if you just, everything that you envision and want, like it's right there. Like the moment you want it, it's like, what's the purpose of the journey?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I want a Big Mac, and you just snap it and it's right there. Right? I look a little skinny, I want some weight, and it's just there.
Yeah.
It's like the whole, or you want to lose the weight and it's just gone. It's like there's no experience. And so I believe that life is really all about the journey. Hence, once you do the vision and you get your vision, you have your entire life.
Yeah.
It's all about the in-between now.
Yeah.
Because when you get there, that's it. There's nothing else to do. You got there.
Yeah. That's not fun. That's not fun. It should never have an ending. Never have an ending. Well, Maurice, thank you so very much for your expertise. And just giving us
in there.
What'd you say?
And that word expertise is an high expectation. I like to be below that, because an expert usually stop learning. So I'll take it for today.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you so much for sharing your energy with us and your information, your wisdom with us all. And I hope that we can do this again, maybe speak more about, you have so many specialties and things and interests. I'd enjoy us to speak on that, and nutrition and gut health and all that stuff. So we could definitely come back and do something on that. I'd enjoy that very much. For everyone who is watching, I will be sure to link Maurice's information below the video, where you can reach him and just shoot him a message. I'm sure he'd have no problem giving you more information. Yes, and thank you all for watching and being here, and thank you again, Maurice, for just being.
It was a pleasure. Anytime.
All right. We are closing now, and look forward to our next guest. She is amazing and has some amazing information for us. And I thank you all for watching, listening, and being here. Have a blessed day.